Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks for tuning in again today. We got Bobby here with my man Samson and our guest Dominic Murray. He's in charge of our deal sourcing over at Growth Vue, and we wanted to talk a little bit today about how to source deals and how to communicate with brokers. So, Dom, welcome, man.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
Man, the myth, the legend, the reason why we have deals to offer on. Dominic Murray. What's up, buddy? How you doing?
Doing wonderful.
Man of the hour. All right. So, Dom, I want you to kind of give us just a breakdown a little bit when it comes to deal sourcing. Tell us about your process and what the daily life looks like.
Yeah. So I'm heading up deal flow here at Growth Vue, and really the process is first and foremost just figuring out where the deals are at, and that's with brokers, owners, and that's about it, right? So my daily process, I'll come in the morning, I'll open up the inbox, see what's came in so far for the day. Big part of my day is just calling the brokers in the areas that we're looking at, saying, hey, here's what we've seen so far. Thank you for sending us everything that you've sent us so far. We are making a big push for off-market opportunities right now, so I'll see if they have anything to offer off-market. And then the other part of my day is usually calling family offices. So calling on family offices who invest in the multifamily space, saying, hey, I heard, you guys are in the multifamily space. Is there anything at all that you guys are going to be unloading this year, or anything that we can get our eyes on that you guys are thinking about letting go? So that's pretty much the biggest piece of the day, is calling brokers, calling family offices, and then just organizing every single thing coming through. So.
And I think what people don't realize is it takes a lot of cycles. Brokers ultimately control the market, right? They probably originally sold the deal or helped the customer buy the deal. And so when the deal goes full cycle and it's getting ready to be sold, then you generally have to go through the broker. But sometimes you can go direct to the owner. And some of the best owners to go to are family offices, right? People who are placing capital as an investment, because sometimes they don't want to involve the broker. They're thinking about it a little bit differently. But it's not one phone call that gets it done, right, Dom? It's multiple phone calls. It's going through the process of taking what the brokers are sending and actually underwriting it and then giving them feedback.
Yep, absolutely. And a big piece of what I did out of the gates when you guys hired me on was I was calling owners directly, and it's definitely doable. You can go that route. It's we've just personally found more success calling on brokers and family offices. A lot of those bigger apartments that if you are going after larger multifamily complexes and things like that, a lot of those are owned by REITs, and it's a little bit difficult to get in front of the right people. So definitely possible on that front too. But our focus is brokers, family offices, and off-market opportunities.
Great. And whenever it comes to that, tell us a little bit about the screening process. Like, how do you qualify a deal? Like, what does a good deal look like?
Great question. So you have to figure out what kind of deals you're even going after in the first place, right? The first question when you call a broker and you're like, all right, what do you have? They're like, well, what do you want? So figuring out what you actually want, what market you're going to be in, what grade of property, you're looking at, what type of, what's the range on the vintage. And then it comes down to the submarkets, what are the schools like? What are the crime rates like? And everything like that. Is this market dying, or is it growing? So first, after you identify exactly what type of market you want, what type of property you want, it makes things a lot easier. We've identified clearly, what we're going after. And so I can come in the morning, I can see, okay, we've had 15 new properties come in today. What markets are they in? Do they fit our market? Do they fit the unit count that we're looking for? So the screening process, I would say, once the deal comes in, is it in the right market? Does it match the unit count that we're looking for? Does it fit within the parameters of the vintages we're looking at? And then as long as it passes all of those, we'll take a further look at it. We'll look at the financials, look at the T12, the rent roll, see any opportunity we can to add some sort of value. Can we boost rents? Have RUBs already been implemented? Is there, already a system in place for that? Over 100 different ways you can find to add value to properties. But once it fits the original parameters that we're looking for, once we've seen the financials and seen, okay, this is at least worth pursuing, then we can get, a little bit further into the underwriting and further into the market analysis and everything like that to make sure that it's something that we do want to pursue.
Yeah, brokers are funny. They you could tell them till you're blue in the face what you're looking for. You could say, I'm only buying B grade between 1984 and 2000. And the very next day you'll get a 1960 50 unit apartment in your inbox. And you're like, does this work? Because they're in the business of sales and marketing. And so we jokingly say the brokers are like Tinder. You want to date a lot of them, but you're never married to any of them. That said, if you want to get access to the better deals, then you're going to have to go through some of the cycles of taking a look at those deals, responding to them and communicating to them, hey, this doesn't work, but thanks for sending it over. Here's kind of more what we're looking for, and just keep giving them that feedback, because you're just as much doing a marketing campaign in their mind as they are trying to get you to buy their property, right? And so nobody wants a tire kicker. On the topic of screening, it goes through about 4 different phases. The very first phase is the deal comes in, and does it even fit in our initial parameters? So like Dom said, there's a million ways to make $1 million in real estate. You just have to decide on what your path is. If you try to boil the ocean and look at everything, there's just not enough hours in the day. So we've already kind of pre-identified what makes a good market for us. And that's based off of, is the market growing? Is there net migration? Is there good income growth? Is there good low unemployment, right? And then within the submarket, what's the local market income? What's the schools like? What's the violent crime like? So that helps us weed out a ton of deals. And then we also know that being in the B and A grade asset class, and even sometimes in the C, when you get a bunch of scale, like 250 units or more, that gives us some risk protection as well. So we can keep kind of going down the chain and knocking these things off. We're trying to kick as many deals out of the deal flow process as possible, so we're not wasting our time. If it gets to those initial parameters, then we do a back of the napkin where we take the financials and determine, what's the going in cap rate, what's the stabilized cap rate, and what's the day one cash flow. Because if the numbers don't make sense, then there's no point in moving forward, because our business strategy is we're buying cash flow and value add, right? We want cash flow day one, and we want the ability to improve the rent through better operations, improving the property through its look, through some renovation of the units, spending money on the property, improving the value and bringing the rents up more. So if it can't even meet those criteria, then we're not going to waste our time like doing a detailed comp analysis and driving and calling the PM and getting the PM out to the market. It doesn't even make sense. And in this current competitive environment, if you're trying to look at everything and you're wasting people's time and never actually executing, like calling PMs to go out and do tours on things that you never offer on, you're building some bad reputation.
So yeah, I really appreciate the feedback. I mean, the more you're seeing in front of them, right, the more familiar they are with what you're looking for. So when they do have that one coming through, then they can send it our way.
And Dom, one thing, like as someone who's invested in residential, I'm on the email list of an agent and they just ping me with stuff. It's not coming directly from their personal email. Are a lot of these brokers like just plugging you into like an email drip campaign and you're just getting what's getting listed, or are you having to hound them directly, like often, and stay front of mind? Or tell me a little bit just about, I guess, the detail and what the communication with those brokers looks like.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you're investing regardless of what you're investing into, you want to go on those bigger brokerages websites and join their mailing lists. We're already on all of the big brokerages mailing lists in the areas that we're looking at. So when they have anything popping up, it's sent our way. And that does mean that a lot of it is not necessarily what we're looking for, like Samson was getting at, but that's just why I personally am making sure that I'm calling these brokers at least once a month, getting familiar with them. And I mean, think about it, right? I mean, if you're a broker and you're getting hounded all day by people looking for opportunities, you're gonna have people that are at the front of your mind. It's the people that you're talking to the most. It's the people that are giving you the best feedback. You know, are you sending them out, 20, 50 deals a month without hearing anything back? You're not going to have as great of a shot at getting that right opportunity when it does come up if you're not staying in front of them, building relationships with these brokers in the family offices, and getting familiar, right? I was just speaking with a broker in Colorado yesterday. Colorado is not a market that we're really looking at right now, but I was just asking them, for you guys, when you guys get an off-market opportunity popping up, how do you guys go about that? And he flat out said, well, who's top of mind? It's a puzzle piece at that point, right? They have a puzzle piece and they're trying to figure out where that puzzle piece is going. So if you are staying in communication with these guys and building relationships and the more you're in contact, the more they're going to know what you're looking for when that puzzle piece pops up, that's the perfect fit. You have a better shot at getting it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Lots of relationship building, and we can always tell the level of relationship that we have with a broker based off of how far away we see the deal before the call for offers. So if we see a deal for the first time and the call for offers is in 2 weeks, we are low on the totem pole, right? But if we see a deal and it hasn't even been pushed out to their network yet, we're on the top of their mind, right? And sometimes, like Dom said, it's just timing. Like you called them and for example, the deal that we just offered on, right, Tom? I mean, that was a relationship we started building 6 months ago. We kind of sent out an email blast. Hey, here's how much equity we have to place. Here's what we're looking for. And within like 30 days, he said, hey, I have a deal that's completely off market, totally pocket listing, shopping it very, very exclusively. I actually need to get approval before I can show you the deal, but I think it'd be a good fit. And so we've been working on that deal for 3 months and just made an offer on it, where normally in a competitive, fully marketed environment, you have 3 to 4 weeks to kind of get your stuff together.
Yeah. So this leads to something pretty interesting, like off-market versus on-market deals. Obviously, you've got to play the game of, hey, give me all the on-market deals, keep me in the loop. Let's talk monthly. And then it could be 3 to 6 months, sometimes 2 years later, before you can get that off-market deal. It's interesting. I'd love to hear a little bit about what have the on-market deals been like in terms of how far do they go down the process and through the team to underwriting versus off-market? Like over the last, let's say, 3 to 6 months, what has the on-market deals been like, and are they even making it past like the napkin math?
Yeah, absolutely. We've had a lot of deals that have been marketed that have made it all the way through. We've placed offers on a few that were fully marketed. Off market, I mean, the climate right now, it's just hot, right? It is hot out there. And we really didn't even start making a big push for off market until, the last month or two. But it's been incredible to see how many off market opportunities there are out there, and people just aren't asking. I mean, I think the first week that we made a big push for off market, I think we saw 4 or 5 come through just in a week, and that was just calling, probably about 50 brokers or something like that. But you got to do what you got to do. But to answer your question, even those the fully marketed deals that we've seen come through, there have been a few of them that the numbers make sense, right? Samson, I remember, first talking to you about commercial real estate, and you said one of the things that you love about it the most is that it's literally just numbers. It's just, does this make sense or does it not? right? And so even with those fully marketed opportunities that have been coming through, there's been a few of them, that it just makes sense. It's right in the ballpark, and the numbers make sense. And so why not make an offer on it? The problem there is you also have, probably about 10 other groups that are seeing the exact same thing. Oh, these numbers do make sense. And then even when they do make sense, that's when you get those groups that are willing to pay higher premiums just to get it, so it's just a lot more competitive. But to answer your question, yes, even the fully marketed deals we see go all the way through the underwrite process.
And this, as we've been doing all these webinars and podcasts with other partners, right? This is why it's so important to have good partners, is because sometimes your insurance broker, who has a familiarity with that type of asset class and in that market, can give you an edge upon the competition because you can get a better insurance quote. Having good tax consultants who can give you clear guidance on what your tax burden is going to be, right? Having really good local market PMs who can verify and solidify your business plan, right, is crucial to actually being able to make a solid deal and feel comfortable. We had a deal that we were looking at in Huntsville, Alabama, and we felt that it was reasonably priced until we got our operating expense budget back from the local market PM, and it completely killed the deal, right? And you want that kind of like friction between your PM partners and your other relationships to help you get the edge. So those relationships are crucial. But to echo what Dominic said, these competing deals, we had a deal that we were chasing down in Oklahoma City and made it to best and final. We came in second. The group that they chose couldn't actually close, so they came back to us and see if we would come up to 17.2 million. We told them no, our best and final offer was 17. So they just skipped over us and went to the third group, who came in at like 16.8, and they got them up to 17.2. So it's incredibly important to stick to your guns and your deal parameters. I come from the world of highly leveraged futures and commodities trading, and everybody's a genius until they're not. And there's an old saying that says the market always needs another sucker. We just want to make sure that that's not us.
These brokers, they'll try their best to, even if it's not within your wheelhouse, even if you're looking at the numbers saying, this just doesn't make sense, they'll, some of them will say, no, you're looking at it wrong. No, there's, no, just, what are you seeing, trying to make it work the way they can.
Yeah. How many deals have you actually operated? And, that we always say, when the broker sends you a pro forma, God bless them, but just take it and throw it in the trash and just start all over.
Yeah, a couple bad calls, and as we like to say, you get wrecked. So don't grab a bad deal. So you mentioned family offices, Dom. Like, one of the things I spend a lot of time, like I work a lot in like the Bitcoin space, and I speak with a lot of like family offices and hedge funds and like large money managers on like Twitter Spaces, Clubhouse, and these open apps where just anyone can grab a mic and communicate. And one of the big things I'm hearing is like family offices, they're buying Bitcoin and they're talking about asset allocation and what does a proper portfolio look like. Like, when you talk to these family offices, are they saying we're wanting to buy more real estate and we're selling this deal? Or are they saying we're going into diversified assets? Or are they trying, are a lot of family offices excited to sell? Like, what is the stance of their portfolio with just how the economy is changing, like just their portfolio management? Is there anything you can share about that?
Yeah, I actually have not contacted a family. I think maybe one family office that was strictly multifamily. Every other family office that I've contacted is in other things as well. Everything from oil and gas to industrial to manufacturing to you name it. Yeah, the family offices that I've spoken with so far, most of them aren't selling anything at the moment. A lot of them are buy and holders, they're lifers. Other people or other offices I've called have said, not right now, but that's another piece of staying in contact with those family offices, right? It's just all timing. Even if it's not right now, who knows what's going to happen 6 months down the road, or when they do need a 1031 something, or, or maybe they just have a pivot in their direction that they want to head, right? Maybe they do want to have more of a, hold in crypto, and they're trying to get away from the multifamily space a little bit. Maybe it's, so a million different scenarios there, but
For
I'll give you two different use cases specifically that I've experienced. The first one was a family office that was going through a transition in leadership. They were passing the torch to the next generation. The next generation had zero interest in multifamily. It wasn't sexy to them. They wanted to sell off all the portfolio and be able to recapture that equity so that they could go do other things with it, which probably included buying Lamborghinis. But they had a portfolio that they needed to divest, right? So, another way that you can potentially find deals is through other relationships with other syndicators and other deal makers, because it was an entire portfolio and they couldn't take the whole deal down by themselves. So they ended up calling another group and saying, hey, we can't take down this portfolio. We are interested in these two, but there's this other one over here. Would you guys like to buy it? So that's one way. The other one was actually a deal that was fully marketed. This was like in the middle of COVID. And it was a family office. They only had one person in their office that actually really understood multifamily. And they had owned this apartment complex. Unfortunately, the guy that understood multifamily got pretty sick, and the property kind of fell apart. Bad property management. Quite frankly, they were taking advantage of the fact that this guy was distracted. And the guy unfortunately passed away, and the rest of the group didn't know what to do. They didn't know how to manage the asset. So they had to sell it. And that, created a pretty good opportunity. We didn't win that deal, but had we been in contact with that family office, we probably would have take a stab at that and never had to deal with a broker.
That's a good point. That's super interesting. Yeah, like family offices, like being in touch with them and stay in front of mind with them. I can imagine you could have some unique opportunity with that, especially inheritance and things as they change over time. And cool. Samson, you brought up something else I wanted to ask about, and it had to do with like sourcing different deals. You mentioned some creative ways, like through relationship with family offices and just like the demographic changes of, inheritance and new people taking over. But what are some other creative ways, Dom, that you've had to like use to get deals coming through? I know over the last quarter, you've done a tremendous job increasing deal flow for Growth Vue. So if you had any kind of maybe like final comments or things you could share as far as getting creative, what's been really helpful or resourceful for you?
That's a great question. Really, the brokers, like Samson said earlier, brokers control the market. It's really just getting outside of your comfort zone and just getting bold with it and asking for the off market opportunities, and finding anyone who's a broker in that market. Right, you have the big boys, you have the Cushmans, and you have the Colliers, and you have the Walker and Dunlops, and there's a lot of other smaller people in commercial real estate in those markets too. So just finding any broker in that market, in the markets that you're looking at, and adding them in and staying in communication with them. Family offices.
I got one that you started doing that was actually somewhat fruitful, which was calling on local market property managers. Because those property managers usually have a direct line of communication with a lot of owners. And a lot of times they can give you some introductions to some people. Like, you look at a market like Chattanooga, it's a hot market, Chattanooga, Tennessee, but it's still small town, right? It's still very intimate. And a lot of people know each other, right? And a lot of people grew up there and have been there for a really long time. We have a smaller broker from Bricks Realty in Oklahoma, and dude lived there his whole entire life. You know what I mean? So he knows some people there that we just don't know. And he may have some key relationships that a broker just might not have. So PMs and dealing with those smaller brokers and treating all those guys as potential guys and gals as potential deal sourcing opportunities.
Especially in those smaller markets. Augusta is another market like that. It's in those smaller markets, things trade really close. A lot of it doesn't even hit the market. It's just people putting puzzle pieces together. So yeah, especially in those smaller markets, the PMs as well, and as well as brokers and everything. Yeah.
Nice. Well, for people who made it this far, Dom, we're gonna have a little fun. I know you've told me some cool stories. Like, you're one of the most like humble, nice, like emotionally intelligent dudes I know. But you're a shark when it comes to like finding deals and like getting value for our LPs. You told me a couple of funny stories on just like your relentless like attitude and finding deals and following up with people. Are there any good ones you can share just with listeners that are memorable for you?
Oh man. It's the more you get into it, the more fun it is, because you just learn more about the market. You build relationships with these brokers, and it's like they get excited. They get stoked when they have something that fits the deal box. But for this, I don't feel like I'm chasing. Once you build a little bit of rapport with these guys, they want to send you stuff that fits within your deal box. And it's more so them just chasing me, like, hey, Dom, following up with you again. Hey, Dom, how's the underwrite coming? Hey, Dom, what's it? But no, that's a great question. Nothing off the top of my head. Sorry, I apologize to disappoint, but
No, you're good.
I remember you thought you were going to say something like, I was in Tijuana and I was drinking at this bar and we started drinking way too much, and the guy says he owns some apartment complexes and just so happened to be in one of our markets. There's nothing crazy like that, but brokers are funny, man, because they can kind of be like initially standoffish, but the reality of it is they don't get paid unless the deal closes. And so once you can show them like, hey, we have a team and we can underwrite and we're looking at deals and we're making offers, you become a player in their mind, and they just as much want to do the deal with you as you want to do with them.
Yeah, I think I remember that one deal, and I forget what it was, but you said I think you called a guy, and he like told his assistant like, no, we're not selling, and then you called back again, and 2 or 3 calls later, he finally got on the phone, and he realized like, man, this is an actual great connection, and you guys formed a relationship. I don't remember the whole story, but I hadn't spoken to you about any unique instances since then, and that just always stuck with me. I was like, how to like get the relationship going, but that's always been in my mind. So that's awesome. But
I saw a lot of that on the residential side. The residential side, when I was chasing residential opportunities, that's where you have to be a little bit more relentless. And yeah, there's one guy who had a duplex that we were chasing that I wanted to get, and God, I think I called him, I don't even know how many times, but he wouldn't answer me for, weeks at a time. And then I'd get like a random text like, hey, Dom, saw you called. Like, let's connect. It's like,
like 12 weeks ago. What do you?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, cool. Well, hey, we appreciate you making time chatting and, sharing a little bit of the deal sourcing process. We'll definitely have to check in at the end of the year, maybe do a little wrap around just how on this year's been for Growth Vue and for you, and kind of what your outlook is just with brokers in the market for Q1 of next year.
Absolutely. I'm excited to see where we're going to be at in a year. I think we've seen 500 deals come through just within the last like 5 months. So, I mean, just to see where we're going to be at in a year from now, it's going to be incredible. I'm stoked.
Same.
We'll keep up the great work, man. We appreciate you doing this, and we'll chat soon.
Thanks for having me, guys. Talk to you guys soon.